Hey guys, I'm back here with a video response to Bigratthreeten. Bigrat, who answered some of the criticisms that people like myself throw at Ring of Honor because of the narratives in their matches, and he also gave his thoughts on wrestling narrative structures as a whole. I want to respond to him and give him a better picture of how I feel about this because, I think where his argument kind of loses its strength is where you consider the perspective that he's coming from. He's saying that the point of a match is to get the crowd going, is to do whatever kind of match you have to do to make the crowd react. My thing with that is a live event perspective. That is a live event experience. And how much you apply that to the experience of sitting down in front of the TV or the computer, whatever it may be, and watching wrestling, that's where I think we are at odds on this. Because everyone constantly says that the live event experience is very different from watching at home. You're aware of that yourself. I know you are. And when you're live, interaction with the crowd can be the be-all end-all for a match, and that's perfectly fine. But when you're watching at home, crowd noise to me is only one part of what makes a match good. I'm going to the two UK Noah shows in May. Just by looking at the announced talent for both of those nights, it's very clear that we're going to get, either a Kenta Marufuji match or a Kenta Nakajima match. I have no doubt that I'm going to enjoy that a lot because it'll be a sight to see when you're there live. There's no doubt about that, even though the DVD experience might not be the best. You were at Final Battle live, and if I remember correctly, you were unwilling to watch that DVD for a while because it might taint your feelings toward the show. You did that video a while ago. I don't really remember that much of it, so maybe I'm taking that out of context. But the point is that the way the match works for the live crowd, that can be the defining aspect of the match when you're there live, obviously. But when you're watching at home, that's only one part of it. Take Kobashi and Kikuchi versus Furnace and Crowfat from All Japan in '92. That's one of the best crowds in pro wrestling history. That's one of the, that match is notable because it has such a great crowd. I would say, though, without that crowd, that's still a great match that does deliver. The crowd is definitely one of the elements that make it the match a 5-star classic that I love. And without that crowd, it definitely wouldn't have been that high. But it doesn't depend on the crowd to be a good match. The crowd enhances the match, but it doesn't make the match. That's how I feel. You used an example from the time of Luthez in the 1910s. That's a time when wrestling was all about the live theater aspect, and why is that? Well, because televisions didn't exist. So check out that All Japan tag. It's the Wrestling Observer's Match of the Year for '92, and that kind of leads me on to another point, a point that I don't want to emphasize too much because we don't look for the best matches of the year or the best matches of all time with every show we watch, but this is true. For those truly special matches, you were able to check off, to use your term, you're able to check off all the elements that make a match so great. You said yourself that you can do that for your favorite matches of all time. It's not that you have to do it. It's the fact that you are able to do it that makes it important to me. This is a lot like when I did my response to LV on the total package thing. For the guys that are going to be the faces of your company, they do need to have the total package, I think. I still think that now. For the guys that are going to be main eventers, probably not. They probably don't need to be equally strong in all the elements that go into a wrestler. There's a subtle but very clear difference between the guys that are going to be main eventers and the guys that are going to lead your company. And again, do not take that as being one of my strongest points because it's not. We do not look for the best matches of all time with every show. So that's only as there's flaws in that. But let's get back to the crowds. Another little thing I'd point out is wrestling, like any business, can use the philosophy of the consumer's always right. A lot of the time that works just fine. That's a good philosophy to have, but not 100% of the time. If that were the case, then we could use your argument here to put a good spin on all those TNA matches where the crowd are chanting, "This is wrestling" for 10 seconds of chain wrestling. I think you would agree with that as well. That's not good. We've been over this quite a bit on this community for a while. It leads me to my next point, though, which is you say that narratives can lead to wrestling becoming repetitive. Over on ProWrest.tv, which I once again urge everyone to register on and participate in, we've got the Best of 1990 vote going on. In 1990, the biggest star in All Japan Pro Wrestling was Jumbo Tsuruta. You look at all the matches that were designed to elevate Misawa, Kobashi, Taue, Kawada. Jumbo is the leader of those matches. He is in charge in every sense of the word, and often the drama of those matches is based on how capable his opponents are of knocking him off that throne, of throwing him from that position of leadership. And there are a lot of those matches. There are a lot of those matches. If you look at how many six-man tags happened in All Japan, how many, main event level six-man tags happened in All Japan from 1990 to, I guess, 92. On the surface that looks like a very repetitive formula, but it's still very entertaining because the wrestlers are good enough to make it consistently entertaining. I have watched so many matches now where Jumbo is leading and I'm never bored because he is truly one of the greatest of all time. That's how I feel about our formula that might seem repetitive. It's all about how the talents handle themselves with it, and that can be case by case, but in the case of All Japan Pro Wrestling in the 1990s, it definitely was not. I really don't see, though, how you can make this point about repetitiveness when Ring of Honor, that style, it's based on the shock value of the spots a lot of the time. If a spot happens that makes you go, holy shit, then that's a formula based on shock value. And what's the only way to stick to that formula? You keep upping the ante. You keep coming up with new and different spots, and you keep doing that until you can't do it anymore, until you reach the limits of what you can do with that. And that's when things get repetitive. If you think that's okay, if you think that's that's okay to be, it's okay to be repetitive in that aspect, that's fine, but it does mean that you can't use repetitiveness as a negative towards wrestling narratives. You just can't do it. I don't think so anyway. So that's how I feel about that. And to continue, you then talked about how if a match succeeds in entertaining the fans, then it's not fair to say it wasn't a good match. Here's my thing. You or I could watch a Hulk Hogan match, let's say a standard Hulk Hogan pay-per-view main event. I'm not going to go into his most famous matches because they're a different case. They could be a different case, but let's look at the standard Hulk Hogan pay-per-view main event. I can appreciate the way Hulk Hogan connects with the audience in a match, and I can appreciate all the strengths Hulk Hogan had as a performer that will undoubtedly make a match at least good. But that's still only one part of it. That will not stop me from looking at the way he makes his comebacks as a major detriment to me enjoying his matches, because my taste in wrestling, I find myself not really being able to buy into a heel domination of Hulk Hogan and not being really able to get caught up in the atmosphere of his comebacks because they're not based on struggle. They're based on Hulk Hogan tapping into this source of adrenaline that is untouchable by any heel apparently, and using it to guide him towards the finish. Matches like that may have served the purpose they intended to serve, but that does not mean that I have to acknowledge that they were anything more than good, And to me, it's the same thing with the Ring of Honor matches. The fact that the crowd is into it is still only one part of the match to me, and it's something that I can definitely point to it as being a positive element of the match, but it's still only one element. And when you have more negatives, then it doesn't make the match any more than good, in my opinion. Moving on to one more point. If Ring of Honor could supplement their style with some good storylines and character development, then I would think a lot higher of them than I do at the moment. I was very positive about Cena and Generico for that reason. Take away the feud in that final match, it's not even a good match, I don't think. But the feud was what justified the pacing of that match, the length of that match, the bits that in any other case would not have made sense, the bits that would in any other case would have been overkill. The feud does a lot of good for all that stuff, I think. And that's something that even Daniel and I don't agree on. That was the basis of my response to him when he first brought up this topic. Why do we disagree on that? Because he came to wrestling through all those combat sports, shoot fighting, that sort of thing. I was a WWE fan, and just a few days ago I watched a match that I really enjoyed as a kid, which is Vengeance 2002. Undertaker defends the title against Kurt Angle on The Rock. That match is completely ridiculous. That match completely destroys the concept of a finisher. I don't think that match is all that great because of it, but I still like it because having three properly established characters can create a good disguise for what was a full-blown spot fest. And I would be on board if Ring of Honor adapted that mentality. But as it stands, Cena and Generico is over. Roderick Strong is still the champion. They don't have Aries anymore, and whatever story value Davies' road to the championship once had is very suspect now because they've waited too long to put the belt on him. That's how I feel about it. I think I've covered everything now. I look forward to reading or hearing your thoughts. I will talk to all of you later on.